Good morning. Happy, what is it? 2025. Happy 2025 to everybody. We have a snowy day today. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. But first, I want to get down to the business of helping people with their resolutions and not from a business perspective, although I want to do that as well, but just from an understanding perspective. And here's what I want to do first. I want you to imagine that you wake up in the morning, and when you wake up, your first thought is not, oh shit. It's not, oh, it's another day, how burdensome. You wake up, you can't wait to get to where you're going, wherever that is, be that work or someplace else. You know exactly what you want to do that day. You're excited to be able to do it, and you have no doubt that you'll be able to do it. You can create, you can accomplish, you can achieve because you feel so good. You're able to breathe well. You have complete clarity of thought. There is nothing holding you back physically in the way of soreness or tightness or largeness. So you bound out of bed, and you go into the restroom. You look at yourself in the mirror. You're happy with what you see. You don't avoid that mirror. You shower, you do your thing, you go to get dressed, and everything you grab, you know, is going to fit. So you have no energy about that either. There's just no extra energy, tension, emotion. You're at ease with yourself, with the world, with what you're trying to accomplish. You move throughout your day. You are accomplishing what you want to. Your interactions are very profound. You're very confident. Your people are drawn to you as a result of this confidence. And only part of that is physical. It's just what you're exuding. It's just your energy. It's where you're coming from. Some people will call it a beingness. You have a glow about you. And this is how you move through the world. Now, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because early January, a lot of people have made resolutions, but these resolutions are being made on top of a void of understanding, or more likely a void of remembering what it's supposed to be like, remembering what the ideal scene is. There is an ideal situation. Some of us have lived that. Some of us have lived that at points. Some of us have never lived it, but aspired to it. Some of us have forgotten it. Probably more people than not have forgotten what the ideal scene is, because we've all had what I'll term a golden age, a time where we were confident and we were energetic and we did have strength and we did exude confidence and we did feel good in our own bodies, and our interactions were how we wanted them to be, and our connections, and just everything came internally and flowed outwards in the way that it's supposed to be. We didn't have too much extra attention on our bodies, on how we were feeling mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We were freed up. And ultimately, that's the reminder that I want to give you as you look towards making your resolutions, because all too often when people forget, the resolution becomes about making something external a little bit better. You know, losing 20 pounds, making more money, improving your credit score, finding a relationship, things like that. What I am imploring you to do is to think about the ideal scene and remember how it was, and try to remember it with your body. Try to remember what that feels like and who you are in that moment. And I think if you do that, there's going to be much greater chance for success, and your GPS will be set to the right location. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about that and a little bit more about the traps that happen. But first, let's handle some house cleaning here. As I mentioned, it is snowing. It is snowing in certain parts of New Jersey where most of you are, most of my clientele is in the state of New Jersey, to snowing where I am right now. I believe it's only going to be about an inch or so. So I don't think there's going to be any changes in office hours. If I find out differently, then please call in. If you're curious, if you have an appointment, do call in. I will call out if there are any changes made for office hours. Okay, so I just did want to get that out of the way. It is very pretty. It's exactly what we want, I believe. Those of us who are not skiers, is we have this pretty snow, but it's not sticking too much, and it's not expected to. So everything should be safe when we look at this evening's commute. I did want to mention that. Another thing I wanted to mention is this. I continue to receive phone calls. Now, of course, the beginning of the year, that makes sense. But when people are calling, one of the first questions seems to be, are you running any specials? And it's like, guys, how many weeks after Black Friday is it? How many weeks after Christmas and Hanukkah is it? So the answer is yes. Because I've learned about this over the years. For some reason, many people, probably myself included, are weeks or months behind. And as a result, they want things that were in place weeks ago, right? They haven't gotten their stuff together enough, but they're starting to. And so what I am doing is the Black Friday is over. Black Friday is the big kahuna. That's the biggest sale of the year. But what I'm doing is something called the split the difference sale. So I'm splitting the price between our regular price and what the Black Friday sale was. So it is very nice. It's very affordable. So if you are planning on calling, please be aware of that, okay? Do not wait for the next big promo. This is a pretty big promo, okay? But don't wait for next year. All right, good. So let's get back to what we were talking about. We were talking about resolutions and the importance of first to formulate this ideal scene, and not just to think about it in an intellectual way, but to the degree you can to try to feel it, to try to experience it. Wherever you are now, the goal is that ideal scene. It's not to get a little bit better, unless you are only a little bit away from your ideal scene, right? Many people, many of us get into this place where we want things to just be a little bit, a little less pain, more acceptable, right? So if the size of the pants is a size, 55 and it should be or 56 and it should be a 36, we say, okay, well, I would love to get to 52. Okay, not an ideal scene, a better scene, but not ideal. All right, so remember and allow this ideal scene to pull you along, try to anchor to it. And so it pulls you along, understand what's possible. Sometimes it doesn't feel possible. And that, of course, is one of the problems, because why take some action towards something that's not possible or real at all? Now, there's a really interesting distinction that I would like to make, and I think it's important to understand this. It's the difference between truth and reality. We all profess to be about truth. We all aspire to truth, but we're really fixated on reality. And there is a difference, right? In truth, can you lose 60 pounds? Of course. It's been done before. It is not impossible. But depending on where you are in your life now and your circumstances and how many times you've failed before, it might not be real to you. So it's not within your reality. Now, here's what I have learned is that when truth and reality butt up against each other, truth loses every time. Okay? So it has to be real to you, not just true in some kind of a very esoteric way. It can't be theoretical. It has to be real. Real is solid. This is the reason why people will come to me and I'll say, how much weight do you want to lose? And they'll say to me, well, I have to lose 50 pounds, but I'll settle for 15, right? Because they can get their heads around 15. That's what's real. So what I want to encourage you to do is I want you to see if you can close the gap between what's real and what's true. What's true may be beyond your imagination or be beyond your ability to view at a particular moment. So if you can heighten your reality and get it up to that truth, even if the truth feels very aspirational or not possible, then you have a much better chance. Okay? So that's one thing I wanted to say. Another thing that I think is important is this. There is a discrepancy sometimes between what our goals are, what we really want, and our identity at that particular moment. And this is a problem that a lot of people butt up against, whether it's in the context of weight loss or in any other context. Here's what I mean by that. If you've ever been at this place, think back to it. If you've ever been to a place where you were the healthy person, like that's just who you were. All your actions were based around thinking about health. You woke up every day, you went to the gym, you meditated, you watched everything you ate. You might have been annoying when you went out to dinner with your friends because they would order something and you would, they'd order French fries and you'd say, okay, would you like a bypass with that? Like, you were the healthy person. That was your identity. You were the one who people looked to and understood that, that was part of who you were, not just what you did temporarily. Okay. So you see, if you're not at that place, if it's not part of your identity, the thing that you're trying to achieve, then you have to rely on force of will. And it can be done. Can it be done? Yes, absolutely. If you know the steps to take, you can just tell yourself, okay, for this time period, because it's so vital to me at the moment, I'm going to follow these particular steps. A lot of people come to the program in that place. Here's the problem, though. If you don't at some point make being healthy, being lean part of your identity, then there's a good chance that it's only going to be a temporary solution. Can you see how that is? At some point, if you come, let's say you come to me, you do a program, you lose 35 pounds, right? You've taken the right steps, you feel better, you feel different. If at some point you don't work on making that part of who you are, i.e., I am the healthy person, I'm the one who takes the healthy actions. And if you don't work on keeping your emotional state at a level that will sustain that, then chances are it may be unsustainable. I write about this in my book. My book is called Keeping It Off. And there are a lot of books out there called Keeping It Off, so make sure you get mine. Okay. If you want it, please let me know. Put a comment in here, email me something. I'm not even charging for the PDF version. I mean, it's just a valuable resource. But I talk about identity as being the ultimate solution. That's the name of a chapter. Identity, the ultimate solution. If the who is there, then it becomes much less of a strain to take the actions. The actions flow naturally from who you've already decided you are. So ultimately, that's what you want to work on. You want to work on identity building. That can be easier said than done. I have a lot of clients and their identity is, good times. They're the ones who have a good time. They're the ones who want to get pleasure from life. Nothing wrong with that. But of course, inherent in that understanding is that good times are all about, eating rich food, drinking a lot of alcohol, doing things that don't necessarily lead to health. So now we have this conflict, this internal conflict. On the one hand, of course, they want to be lean and look good and feel good. On the other hand, they want to be completely free and they want to be gluttonous. This is the trap of identity. This is the identity trap. You cannot win a war fighting against yourself for very long. Okay. This is when people start to look towards outside solutions, things like Ozempic. So that's what I want you to consider. And yes, it's a pain in the ass because all we ever want to do is we want to be free. We don't want encroachments upon our freedom. We want our freedom to be part of that identity. Freedom, but it's not reality. Freedom from consequences, especially in the realm of weight and of health, is not an actual thing. We all know this intellectually, but in action, we want to think of ourselves as having the ability to be totally free, and then we won't have a consequence on the other side. Okay? So we have to expand our minds to encompass this fact, this basic fact. We're dealing with gravity. And what gravity means is that something will happen inevitably. If you drop a rock, it's going to fall. If you continuously eat food that is hyper processed, drink a lot of alcohol, then eventually health problems will develop. And your weight will likely not be what it should. Now, there are those people, of course, who are freaks and have these great metabolisms. Those people are fewer and further between now that our food supply keeps getting worse and worse, and that the outside environment has been coming inside in this country. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a struggle. This is why I talk about, even though I want to stay apolitical, I talk about, and I will continue to talk about, what RFK Jr. is trying to do and the possibility of us making our task easier by improving our food supply, improving our environment, getting all the chemicals out of it. If this is even possible, it would be like unfiring a gun at this point, because we've just been, on this unhealthy path as a nation for so long. It took less effort back in the 70s. It took a lot less effort than it does now. But if those structural changes could be made, we could get back to a point theoretically where it takes less effort again. And then maybe we don't have to be so dependent on force of will or even identity. Maybe the context is just so strong and just so able to push us along that it's not a fight, which is what it feels like for a lot of people now. But right now, even that conversation is theoretical. And like I said, we're going to be talking about it more, because if there's one thing that we could all agree to or agree with, it's that the larger context does affect us as individuals. Sooner or later, it does affect us, right? We are all in this snow globe that has been shaken up, and we're still waiting for it to calm down, if it ever will. But if we can get back to some semblance of sanity, says Dr. R on January 6th, then it will be much easier and much healthier for everyone, okay, with less effort involved. So I think those are some really important points. It's a lot to deal with. The question arises, well, how do we build our identities? No easy task. There's probably no one way. But sitting down without any distractions and thinking and imagining, what some people have called postulating, right? Making resolutions, but making resolutions in a very conscious way, is probably a good place to start, right? If we can just sit there and be without a lot of different distractions, which we are inundated with. This is another trap when it comes to identity. It is much harder to figure out who we are now or decide who we are because we are pulled in so many directions. Imagine if your consciousness was actually Play-Doh and it was being pulled simultaneously in 12 different directions. I mean, you can see that instead of having, one strong rock, it would be a very thin and unaesthetic kind of a structure right there, right? And what we need is a very solid foundation, a solid structure. So I think that's probably the place to start. Give yourself that time to consider what it is that you want, who it is that you are or that you need to be in order to create this actual resolution. Then you can think about the steps that need to happen. Everyone's talking about the steps, right? I say in my book that volumes have been written on this idea of be, do, have, right? People have heard of this concept. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but more people than not are focused on what it is that they want to have and what they need to do. And the identity part of it falls by the wayside. And that is, of course, the most important part. And I talk about in my books certain people who really embody this concept. And we consider them masters. The ones whose beingness, whose identity is so strong that of course they take the actions they're supposed to be taking. It couldn't be any other way. These people have a peace of mind that most don't, in the sense that they know exactly who they are. They don't have to overthink. And I mention some of these people. I consider Warren Buffett one. I consider Tom Brady one. There are probably many, many examples. These are famous people. But they don't have those internal conflicts to the degree that most of us do. It wouldn't even be a thought. Or if it is a thought, there's much less tension about it, right? Because they're so centered. They're so solid. So that's all I'm going to say for today. Naturally, I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. 2025, we have the opportunity to make it better than 2024. I hope that everyone takes advantage of it. I hope that this type of conversation is helpful. And I would like to make it more of a discussion for those of you who are willing to participate. I have some people who are lined up who I'm going to be speaking to this year, some really fascinating and intelligent people. And don't underestimate the effect that a simple conversation can have in your life. It's not the end point. It's never the end point. I meant to say that about my book. My book is not the end point. I think it's a great book, right? But it's designed as a spark, right? It's not designed as a blueprint. It's designed as a spark. If you read it and internalize it, and it sparks some things, those could be breakthroughs that you could act upon. But ultimately, it's about you. It's not about those things that are external. So anyway, that's it. Now I'm rambling. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day and a great year.